Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockerell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and we have a listener question this week, which I know Lee always loves listener questions. We probably used to do that more than we used to, but it is a familiar name to you, Lee. Karen Ellis. She is a member of the Cockerell Academy. She's on most of the Cockerell Academy community calls, so it was great to see her name. She has, rather than a question, she has a topic she said she'd like you to talk more about. And in her description of the topic, she mentioned she is she earned the change practitioner certification through an organization I've not heard of. But I think that's a great idea, at least have someone who understands and focuses on change in an organization, which leads us to her topic. Is she would like to hear more about organizational change management.
Yeah. Well, that's a big subject, and probably every company in the world deals with that all the time. They're always thinking about it, how to organize for success, how to organize for better profit, how to organize for better customer service. Um, yeah, I mean, organizational structure is really the way you run your company, who's in charge, and who does this and who does that. And sometimes, as technology is changing quickly and points of view on customer leadership and all of these kinds of things have changed pretty dramatically. And I think one of the issues is that things are changing just faster than they used to. And so we're trying to figure out how to adjust our organizations in headcount, number of people, how we do things, who has authority, who has a responsibility, who's held accountable. Um, uh, Certainly, every organization is trying to have less people, less cost because of the business results they need. And so it doesn't matter what business it is. I think we're all thinking about it because certainly salaries, wages with benefits is probably your highest expense in a company. It's certainly not office supplies. It's so labor. And it's just every time we get into a recession also, it seems like that's the time somebody triggers, well, let's think about the organizational structure because that kind of puts the thought in your mind that we're going to have to figure out some ways to cut our costs down here. We're in a recession, sales are down, and so it kind of gets disguised that way sometimes when there's a recession going. And I've been through so many recessions. Really, in a recession, all you can do is pray and reduce your staff and cost, and hope it gets over with pretty quick. There's not many other things. You don't need a big plan. It's how do you get your costs down because your sales are down, and so I think with organizational structure, you got to be honest. Number one, you got to get your people together. I get them together right away, so they or let them know if it's a huge group by email or text or online that hey guys, here's the situation. We're in a situation where our sales are declining. We're going to have looks like 18 months, 24 months, going to have a pretty rough time. We've got to maintain our bottom line to stay in business, or we got to maintain our bottom line to keep the shareholders that we have. And we're going to go through a structural change of the organization. We're going to be thinking about what jobs we need, what jobs we don't need, what jobs other people could do, what jobs people could take on more responsibility personally and have one person instead of two, what things we can do with technology instead of headcount, instead of manpower. And we're going to be honest with all of you as it comes around. And I know this is going to create some insecurities, but this is kind of the way it works in capital business in the US and really anywhere in the world. But so you will be hearing more. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on and what we need to do. I hope we can get your feedback about how to do it. If you have any ideas how we can reduce costs. And by the way, I can say we did this after 9/11. We did this and we engaged the whole staff at Disney asking for their ideas, and lots of ideas came from them on how to reduce expenses that did not include headcount. With the way we spend money, the way we spend on this, we don't need that, we don't need this, we could do away with that. And so we got a bunch of savings and got through that period by the cast members really stepping up and taking responsibility for the cost also. And then we had to lay some people off too, and that always happens. And I say about layoffs, usually people get laid off in the order of how well they perform. So I always tell people, if you want to have less odds of getting laid off in a recession or a headcount reduction, make sure that you're a great performer. Because even if they don't need your job, they'll find a job for you because of who you are, your reliability, your attitude, your the things you can do and get ahead. So, but it's like any that it's a very emotional change because it puts people are not at ease because they're going to income or lose your job, or you got a family to raise, and you so it needs to be done with some sensitivity, and it needs to be done with some really out front where you're telling everybody the truth. You're not just kind of saying we might and this and that. You got to and you got to have enough respect for people to tell them what's going on. And for some of them, that may give them a chance to go find another job before you get done with this. People will come and talk to you about it. Would I be at risk? And you can talk about that, yes or no, or it might be a good time for you to start looking for something else or something even in the company. It may not be in the certain job you're in right now, but in the main, I think in one of our courses, and which one is it? The Real Leadership. We have a
Real
whole
leadership.
we have a whole section on organizational structure changes, and we have it also in my book, Creating Magic. And so we kind of laid out some ways to do it, and ways to think about it, and ways to implement it in a way that hopefully doesn't create too much emotional damage to the company. That you get through it, and that it's not and that your customers and your guests are not affected either by seeing poor service or poor results in any area they deal with you on. So, yeah, it's a tough thing. It's one of the hardest things you have to do in a company is go through a situation where you're going to reorganize, and some people are going to lose their jobs. But a good leader is going to tell the truth, get out there and you know do what you got to do.
When I was a financial analyst at a commercial bank, we went through a couple rounds of this as we bought other banks and then eventually rolled them into our bank. And then another round when we moved our headquarters from a small town to Seattle, and that impacted many departments. And then the ultimate change, organizational changes, when we got bought by Wells Fargo, and they rolled our bank into theirs, and almost all of headquarters got let go because Wells Fargo already had their own staff doing it. And from what I saw, and by the way, in that, I had already put in my, it worked out really well. I had already put in my notice saying, I'm quitting. I'm going to be a park ranger. And then they said, okay, well, we can't replace you. Can you stay for 7 weeks? Which I did. But they, during those change, the Wells Fargo change, the ones before, what I found the biggest weakness in organizational change is lack of communication, because if you don't communicate, people fill in the blanks and they never fill it in with good stuff.
Exactly. That is exactly right. Tell the truth, tell it quick, and don't let the rumors get started because you can't
Yeah.
control rumors like you can control the truth. Yeah.
And if I remember rightly, you said that you will work through every bad question you think someone will ask, all the negative stuff. And then when you meet with the group, you'll actually just address them before people ask it, before they get to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I promote to people, if you're a leader, I'll make people comfortable that they can ask any question they want. There's no question I can't ask because the answer might be I don't know, and I'll get back to you. But absolutely. And if you're not a leader who can answer any question, even though they're hard and they're embarrassing sometimes, you that's you gotta, when we talked about lead out loud, people got to know you where you stand and what you're telling the truth, and you can't say, well, I'm not sure. Let me check with my people. Some people say, well, why doesn't he know? He's in charge here. And you hear this all the time in interviews on, well, I don't know. I haven't been involved in that. I'll check that out and get back to you. No, 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 no. Just because they're trying to avoid telling the truth. When you tell the truth, you get better results from your customers and from your employees and your teams. Uh, People know the minute you start weaving around and trying to lie. I mean, people know. It's like every night when I watch the news, I go, "Oh yeah, here we go again." Another one. It shouldn't have happened, and we're going to make sure it never happens again until it does. So, because they're not going to do anything about it. So yeah, yeah.
In one of Jack Welch's books, I don't remember if it was either From the Gut or Winning. Those were his first two. He talks about when he was running GE, he would go around to different factories and have town hall meetings.
Yeah.
And one of the factory workers said, and this could be paraphrasing, I don't know if I remember it right, but one of the factory workers said something like, you've had my hands for 20 years, but you could have had my brain too, but no one has ever asked. And
Well,
I think that applies to change management too.
absolutely. I mean, probably the best resource you have is all those people who work with you, your team members. They know things you don't know. I mean, they know so much you don't know. It's not even funny. It's sad because we don't set the environment and get them comfortable enough and trustworthy enough for people to be involved and be a part of the solutions. And you might not be in a situation where you have to make change management if you would manage the place better, where everybody was involved and cared, instead of just telling you enough to keep their job and not telling you any big things, hard things. This is the way it. If you got everybody working for the company in a positive way, it's going to be a lot more productive and a lot more profit and a lot more less turnover than it is if you got this everybody's afraid all the time and nervous and what's going on and I don't understand. Nobody told me. This is, and you, as you just said it, the biggest complaint is always communication. I don't know what's going on around here. Nobody ever
Mhm.
talks to me. So yeah.
Well, managing organizational change is one thing, and managing your vacation is another. But you can get help with that much easier than you can get help with organizational change. Just call our friends at Magical Vacation Planner. You can reach them at 407 442 2694. Just let them know that you want to take a vacation and you don't want to manage it all yourself. It's wonderful. I've used them many times. They do great work. If you have a question or a topic like Karen sent to us, reach out to either one of us. I'm at jodymayberry.com. You can find Lee at leecockerell.com. And we've mentioned it on a couple other episodes, but the Cockerell store is live now where you can get any book, you can get any course. There's no cost resources with more on the way. And we're trying to come up with some new stuff to put on in the Cockerell store to make sure any topic you want to learn about that we've got something for you in leadership, management, culture, customer service. So check out cockerellstore.com. And until next week, go out and create magic